Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. Today we're going to look at 5 of the best decks in our current standard format in the early Twilight Masquerade NAIC meta. Now, of course, NAIC is next week. I know everybody is testing very hard, trying to figure out the best deck, best 60, what's the best play for NAIC. Now, this list is not going to be in any particular order. We're going to be doing a lot more NAIC content very soon on the channel, like a proper tier list, a proper top 10 best deck video. All that stuff will be coming soon on the second channel, but I at least wanted to look at what were 5 of the best decks right now in our early format to kind of get a look as to what people might be expecting to see at NAIC and what's doing good in the online tournaments and all that stuff will kind of be recapped in today's video, because I wanted to look at what were 5 of the best decks in our early metagame to kind of get a look at where the format is headed right now. And this honestly could change with NAIC. I mean, these 5 decks are really good right now, but this could all change when NAIC comes next week. If y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 15K subscribers now, and we just hit 14K, so big thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the channel and all that good stuff, and all the support here on the second channel. And let's get into what are 5 of the best decks right now. Let's do it. The first deck I wanted to highlight in today's video was Lugia. Now, Lugia has been doing really good in a lot of the online tournaments, and in my opinion, is supposed to be a very strong deck in the meta. Basically, the deck just got access to Iron Hands EX, and also gained the new supporter card Carmine. Getting both Legacy Energy and Carmine, I think, are very good upgrades to Lugia that genuinely might put the deck over the top. I'm not kidding on this one. Lugia seems very, very good right now. It is doing pretty good in the online tournament scene because it's Lugia at the end of the day, right? It's a very strong deck that if it is able to set up that turn 2 Archeops, the deck is unstoppable. Being able to OHKO anything with Cinccino and having access to the ability to take 2 prizes with Iron Hands is also really good with the deck. I mean, Lugia definitely feels like it is now on another level of power with Twilight Masquerade. It does have some weaknesses. Obviously, stuff like Enhanced Hammer, Temple of Sinnoh are very big issues for Lugia, and some of the big decks in the meta might be starting to counter Lugia a little bit harder now, so that Lugia can be defeated a little bit easier, because it is a little exploitable, but honestly, Lugia is just such a strong deck, and when you can use Carmine, which can speed up the process of getting that turn 2 double Archeops summoning star off, it does seem really good. This is a sample list here I got from an online tournament. I definitely think that the Ogerpon Wellspring is also very good in this deck too, because now you basically have the ability to threaten the double KO with the Ogerpon, and you get to recycle your Legacy Energy back into your deck, which is honestly really powerful. Being able to use Ogerpon as a mini Amazing Rare Raikou is really good. Lugia honestly kind of feels like a mini version of how it felt during its heyday back in the Silver Tempest format. That's what it feels like, honestly, when you have access to Iron Hands, which is similar to Stoutland. You got the Ursaluna, which is like Radiant Charizard, and of course, you do have access now to the Ogerpon, which can be like Amazing Rare Raikou. So Lugia definitely feels like it's in a very good spot right now. I'm definitely interested in the deck myself. It's very strong. And it does feel like it has answers to everything in the format right now with all the options that it has available. The only thing holding it back will ultimately be its consistency issues, right? Lugia is not a very consistent deck sometimes. You tend to get those classic Lugia hands where you do get a bunch of energy. But if you get past that, Lugia does feel like it is a very good deck right now. And it's definitely one of the best decks in our early Twilight Masquerade format. Next up is Raging Bolt Ogerpon, which is definitely getting all of the hype right now in our format. It's a very popular deck on Pokemon TCG Live. Now, I do think the deck is very strong. It's filling a very similar role to what we've seen with Roaring Moon in past formats, like in the Paradox Rift meta, for example. We saw a lot of Roaring Moon, and this is basically the same concept. You're just going really fast with your Ogerpon and your Raging Bolt. You're just knocking out anything in the active spot. You have the ability to take a knockout on your first turn going second, which is very, very good. You can do 280 damage on your first turn, potentially, which is insane. You have the ability to one-shot anything in the active spot. You're also, like, fairly fast and consistent. I mean, you do have decent consistency in the deck with the Sawdust Vitality. You have the Teal Mask Ogerpon, so you are able to draw a lot of cards in a single turn. Now, this deck definitely feels like it is very powerful. Now, in my opinion, I don't think this is the best deck in the format. Even though in this video I said I wasn't going to say this list was in any particular order, I don't think this deck is as good as everyone is hyping it up to be. I think the deck is very powerful, yes, but it just feels like another Roaring Moon or even like another Miraidon. It's just a fast, hard-hitting deck that blows up anything in the active spot. It's just a 2-prize beat stick deck. That's all it is. And it is a very good 2-prize beat stick at that. It's a very aggressive and fast, powerful deck that does feel like it does have its fair share of awkward matchups. I'm not sure the Lugia matchup is great. Your Gardevoir matchup's not very good. I think your Lost Box matchup's not very good either. It does have an array of bad matchups. The one thing that this deck does really well, though, is it beats Dragapult. And I think that's one of the main selling points behind playing Raging Bolt Ogerpon, and it is doing a lot of numbers in online tournaments. Just because the deck I don't think is the best deck in the format doesn't mean that it is still a good deck. It's doing really good in the online tournaments right now. It has won a lot of them, and it's been getting consistent top 8 placements. I mean, a lot of the tournaments we've been seeing, actually, half of the top 8 has been consisting of literally Raging Bolt Ogerpon. I think a lot of people are just playing it because it's fun to play and it's fast. It is still a powerful deck, and right now I do think it is one of the best decks in our current format with how popular and how much play it is seen. We'll have to see where it goes with NAIC, but definitely you got to respect the Ogerpon Raging Bolt deck, because it feels like Raging Bolt Ogerpon is actually something to be feared, because it's fast, powerful, and that's all you really need. All right, next up is Dragapult. Now, we are still in the early stages of Dragapult being figured out. I think that's why we're not seeing Dragapult as dominant as it could be, is because nobody knows really what the best way to play the deck is right now. There's 3 different versions I've been seeing running around in these online tournaments, having decent placements. Dragapult is definitely a very strong card, though, and I think once people figure out the best engine for it, the best way to play it, the best partners and all that stuff, I do think that Dragapult has the potential to be a very solid deck. It is definitely still one of the best decks right now, regardless, mainly because you do have to respect it. At least your deck needs to have a way to beat it. You have to at least play a deck that should hopefully have an okay matchup in a Dragapult right now, because it is still very popular, and again, people are playing it right now, try to figure out the best version of the deck. Now, thankfully, post NEIC, I do think we will have a little bit of a better idea of the best way to play Dragapult, because right now, like I said, everyone's playing different variations of the deck, and nobody's quite cracked the code on it yet, but the highest placing Dragapult deck at NEIC might be a sign as to what the best way to play the deck is. Now, the 3 versions that I've seen here, we got the more traditional Xatu Rotom build, not playing any other support Pokemon in the deck, just playing the Xatu to put your energy on your Dragapult, playing the double Rotom to set your board up. Dragapult does have the ability to set up nicely with Dracloaks, but you're still a deck that probably wants to get a turn 2 rare candy Dragapult off, and the best way to make that possible is with Rotom. So the double Rotom still makes sense. You'd have that TM Evolution in the deck too if you want to play a little bit slower and TM Evo out your Dracloaks and your Xatus, depending on the matchup. But the Rotom is still really good to establish a hand. You're not really playing a super big draw engine. You don't have Pidgeot, no Bibarel. You do have Xatu and Dracloak, which do draw you cards, but you're not able to see as many cards as you would like. So having that Rotom for that immediate big hand going into your next turn can be good, because sometimes you can just pull off that rare candy Dragapult into an attack turn 2, which is a pretty threatening thing to do. Being able to turn 2 Dragapult is definitely very scary. The next Dragapult deck here that is seeing some success is the Dragapult Pidgeot build. Now, this one does have a Neo Upper Energy in the deck and is not playing Xatu. So to compensate for not playing any Xatus to put energy on your Dragapult, the Pidgeot version here is playing the Neo Upper Energy. It's basically like Charizard. You got the Lumineon, you got the Rotom in the deck for that extra draw. You're not playing any Bibarel, but you already have Dracloak in the deck, so you already have another draw engine alongside of the Pidgeot with the Dracloak. You're not playing the Xatu. You do have Mela, though. This build is also very strong, and I think a lot of people right now are trying to figure out if Dragapult is worth it with Pidgeot. Pidgeot does seem like it should be very good with Dragapult, because just being able to quick search for any card you want every turn is a little broken. And again, the Neo Upper Energy does help the deck a lot. It gives you that ability to attack for 1 energy attachment. It actually makes it so you can Dragapult very quickly and early on in a match, which is really good. Sometimes even just pulling off that turn 2 Rare Candy Pidgeot, Rare Candy Dragapult with Neo Upper is very good. And it's one of the reasons why the Pidgeot build is seeing the success. Now, this honestly could be the best way to play it. We just don't know yet. And then we got Lost Zone Dragapult, another version of Dragapult that's actually been having some relative success. The Lost Zone engine does complement Dragapult nicely, because you can use Mirage Gate, which can fuel Dragapult's attack in 1 card. You can just Mirage Gate, Psychic, and Fire. You can play Cramorant and Sableye, which are pretty good support Pokemon to play alongside Dragapult. Cramorant can set up 2 shots with Dragapult. You can also use it to take early knockouts, put on some pressure. And use Sableye. Sableye is also really good with Dragapult. Both attacks synergize nicely together with Lost Mine and Phantom Dive. And then you have the Radiant Charizard, so you do still get to play that 1 prizer. This Dragapult build actually feels like it has a better time into the Raging Bolt deck, as opposed to the other Dragapult lists, which don't seem to have the best Raging Bolt matchup, where the Lost Zone variation does have a better Raging Bolt matchup. So all 3 of these different versions of Dragapult definitely seem very, very strong. And like I said, we are still figuring out what is the best way to play the deck right now. Gardevoir is a deck that definitely is gaining a lot of stock with this new set, and that's mainly because of the addition of the new Monkey Dory, which is a very powerful card within the deck because you are able to manipulate your damage a little bit better. You can actually take bigger knockouts with the Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory is a massive upgrade to Gardevoir, and Gardevoir is still a very good deck. I think that it actually has a good matchup spread across the board. I think its Lugia matchup's pretty solid. Your Raging Bolt matchup is very favored. You still have a lot of tricks in your deck. You have the Flutter Mane and the Mimikyu, both of which can be very annoying to deal with. Flutter Mane can help a lot against setup decks like Lost Box. The Mimikyu is sometimes very annoying to deal with. Some decks sometimes can't even answer Mimikyu. One of the big things that Gardevoir is now starting to put back in the deck is the Cresselia. Being able to use Cresselia against Dragapult is really good. Dragapult is a sketchy matchup in theory because you are playing a lot of little Pokemon, but Gardevoir does play a little bit differently against Dragapult. Instead of just going boom with your Drifloon or Screamtail, you now have to play a little bit more passive and different against Dragapult because you can't really afford to do those big Drifloon KOs as often anymore because of how Dragapult is attacking you. So you have to play into the Monkey Dory and the Cresselia a little bit more now, which does make the Dragapult matchup a little bit more favored. I would actually argue if Gardevoir can set up efficiently enough, I actually think Dragapult is slightly favored for Gardevoir. Yeah, Gardevoir does feel like a very strong deck right now. It's not as good as it probably used to be before in the Paradox meta, but Gardevoir still seems very powerful. It does have a lot of good matchups across the board. You have a lot of different attackers and different sneaky plays you can make. It does feel like an all-around just super powerful deck, and it's putting up some pretty good results right now in the online tournaments. The A-Spec has also been going kind of around right now. We have the Hyper Roma, which can be really good to grab all your Curlias out of the deck to give you a fast setup. You do still play the TM Evo, which is really good. You can sometimes sit behind Mimikyu or Flutter Mane and just TM Evo up your Curlias, kind of like a mini Mirage step. But you also can still play stuff like the Heroescape if you want to give yourself that extra bit of bulk, or give you that extra tool card for your Drifloon, or you can even play the Unfair Stamp, which is another popular A-Spec Gardevoir can play. Unfair Stamp seems very, very good because since Gardevoir is a little bit of a slower-paced setup deck, if your opponent goes aggressive, takes a knockout, you can punish them with an Unfair Stamp, which can be very powerful. So yeah, Gardevoir definitely feels like it is one of the strongest decks in the format right now. Definitely has some legs, and with all the different tools it has access to, it definitely feels like it can beat almost anything in the format. And with the addition of Cresselia and Monkey Dory now in the deck, I think that the deck can stand up and have a little bit of a countermeasure to Dragapult. And then the last deck I wanted to mention here in this video was actually going to be Control. And I wanted to mention this because I think Control is a deck that needs to be respected. And I think if you're somebody who's kind of trying to figure out the meta, trying to figure out the best play for NAIC, I think you do need to keep Control in the back of your mind. So there's a few reasons why I wanted to say this. One, Control is a deck that does adapt in the meta. Yes, the meta is a lot different than it was before because Control did dominate at the LA Regionals. It won LA. And I think a lot of that dominance is going to carry over into this Twilight meta because a lot of people are going to figure out how to play Control going into this new format, because Control did so well last format, who's to say it can't do well this format? Control does feel like it has the ability to be as strong as ever when it has all these very powerful cards like the Eerie, the Misfortune Sisters, the Pennies, the Heroescapes, and all the different Control-y style Pokemon that the deck has access to. Now, I know there is also Snorlax Stall, but that's not really a Control deck, though I also would say that you probably want to keep Control and Stall both on your mind at once, because while both decks are different, they are in a similar vein of what they're trying to do. Control's a lot different, though, than Stall with how it plays. It actually can attack you, and it does a lot of different tactics. And I think that Control will be popular for NAIC. I think people are still figuring out how the deck plays. It's already won 2 major online tournaments. That's another reason why I wanted to mention it. The other thing about Control is it's a very hard deck to play against. And that's the other thing, too, when playing the deck. Not only is it a hard deck to play, but Control can also be a very difficult deck to actually play against. Sometimes when you're up against Control, you don't quite know what you're doing or really know what to do because of how Control operates. I think that's a very big deal. If you're somebody who's looking to do good at NAIC and whatever deck you're playing, I think you want to try to figure out the Control matchup a little bit more, because I think that Control might do good. A lot of players who played Control in the past format might try to replicate that success and play it again at NAIC because they want to see if the deck can carry over. And I think that once the deck is figured out more and how it can handle these new decks like Raging Bolt and Dragapult, I think the deck will get a lot more popular, and I definitely think you want to keep Control in the back of your mind going into this format, because Control/Stall definitely feels like it's going to be a lot stronger this format. And since this Pidgeot Control deck has already won 2 big online tournaments and has even gotten a couple of top 4 and top 8 placements in other online tournaments, I think the deck is definitely something that needs to be respected right now. And with the addition of stuff like the Wellspring Ogerpon, which can trap you, with the new Blood Moon Ursaluna, which feels like an insanely big upgrade to the deck. Ursaluna with like Penny Loop sounds kind of dirty because the card has a lot of HP, so it's already extremely tanky, and when you can Penny Loop it, it's kind of ridiculous. So definitely Control feels like it's one deck to keep on your radar right now, and one deck that needs to be respected. Because I think that if you're going into a tournament without knowing how to play against Control or Stall, or even respecting them, you're probably going to have a bad time if you end up hitting one, because I think Control and Stall are getting even better within this Twilight Masquerade meta, and I did want to highlight that. Even though the deck is, maybe, supposed to be getting worse from the past format, I think it's only getting better. And I think once people figure out the best lines, the best plays, Control will be very, very good. And I did want to mention that real quickly here, because both Control and Stall, I think, are getting a lot better within this meta, and I wanted to highlight both of them in today's video. But there you go, folks. Those are 5 of the best decks in the format right now. There are some other decks that I could have mentioned, like obviously Lost Box is one of them that could have made this, top 5. Again, this list wasn't in any order or anything. I was just, talking about 5 of the best decks right now. But stuff like Lost Box, I could have included in the conversation. Miraidon's another deck that I thought about considering in the conversation. But I think these are just 5 of the best decks right now to keep on your radar for testing for NEIC. And of course, I'll be having more proper NEIC content very, very soon here on the second channel. So stay tuned for that. But let me know what you think of these decks down below. Have you been testing for NEIC for yourself? What deck have you been finding the most success with and all that good stuff? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Help me in the road to reaching 15K subs. And that'll be it for me. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in another video here. Bye-bye.